These are confusing times in this country, even chaotic. So let's start with something simple. A word or phrase to describe America.
Disheartening. Divided.
Things are going just downhill.
This is the first election where families and friends lost each other after the election.
You lost friends and family?
A couple of friends that stopped talking.
Show of hands, how many of you lost a friend because of this election? That's, my God.
Yeah.
What happened?
I'm a racist, I'm a bigot, I'm a homophobe. The media has really tortured us up.
Do you think a majority of Trump voters have, not necessarily a racist, but have racist tendencies? You're nodding your head yes.
But you're pointing fingers at one individual race. Build a wall. Build a wall.
You want to build a wall. I as somebody who is Hispanic, I was born in Chicago.
Correct.
My dad's Mexican, my mom's Cuban.
Right.
All right? My dad voted for Trump.
Right.
Why? Because he came here legally. My wife came here legally from Ecuador.
Correct.
Why is it fair for somebody to get in front of the line when they come here illegally?
Exactly.
I don't think that is hypocrisy. That is hypocrisy.
But when my
where
friend
it's
comes
okay
to my
lock
door
your
and says
door
that
at
he
night.
needs to stay,
Exactly.
well,
It's
I
right
go to my
here.
house.
Exactly.
Excuse me, can I say something?
We have a responsibility to the
Stop.
international community.
It took 4 minutes for this to degenerate. We're traveling the country, listening to average Americans like you about the divide that seems to affect America. In this case, it's the generational divide. Millennials and baby boomers. I want a word or phrase from our baby boomers to describe millennials.
Entitled.
Self-centered.
Unappreciative.
Lazy.
Lazy.
Now's your chance to get even. I want a word or phrase from you to describe baby boomers.
Stuck in their ways.
Archaic.
Failures.
Out of touch.
Because they get offended by everything too, right? A guy kneels during a football game and that sparks national outrage, right? Who's the real snowflake?
Well, it's disrespectful.
It's totally disrespectful.
It's completely disrespectful.
Kaepernick's people are being gunned down in the streets. Can you really expect him to just sit down and be silent?
There's words called discretion and respect too, and I don't see any of that in the millennial generation.
Stay on your phones too long.
I live off my phone. Like I could travel the world, and people are innovative and creative, so they don't have to do a 9-to-5 job anymore. So that's our way of controlling.
I think that's what irritates us because you don't do a 9-to-5 job, and I guess that we had our head to the ground, and to the millstone. We were actually working and bringing home checks and pensions.
Shouldn't you want the next generation to improve and find?
I would like to be like that guy. That's great.
I mean, I personally feel like baby boomers are a little bit stuck in their ways, and it's hard for them to be able to see that we're innovative.
So we're the first generation that's taking the issue of global warming and climate change seriously when we're the ones who are gonna be facing it and it's a catastrophe. We're the ones who are realizing that while they're...
Really?
Yes, a catastrophe.
The temperature of the earth changes all the time.
The only renewable.
A lot of us do, yeah.
That's the only renewable choice that we have, or option that we're actually thinking and actually theoretically testing.
I think governor would strongly disagree.
Panic over the world coming to an end and Manhattan being underwater as predicted 10 years ago, which it's not, and conservation and being kind to our environment are two totally different things.
I think that 98% of scientists
That's a false
support it are more qualified than you are.
That's the reason why you did not say that.
That's exactly
You did not say that.
You did say that.
I was too busy reading my Bible and driving my Ford. Listen to the facts.
Stop the last 30 seconds. There's not a single person in this room that heard what anyone was saying because you all were talking at the same time. And you were talking over him the entire time. And you were talking over her the entire time. If your kids saw this, they would laugh at you. Then why'd you do it?
Everybody wants to be right. Everybody wants to have their opinion, their beliefs, their lifestyle, and their choices to be correct. And that's not what a democracy is about.
Well, when I express my opinion on social media, I get called Uncle Tom, Coon. I love it though. I love it. That means that I won, and I get deleted. I get blocked just about every day on Facebook because of my opinion. That's not American.
Our country is falling apart. God said to stand with Israel.
Oh my
He
God.
did.
Did God come tell you that? He didn't tell me.
In the Bible.
But if they have a Christian president, that's what he's going to do.
The reality.
Oh, really? He's not a Christian. He's not a Christian. Because a Christian would not call countries shithole countries. He's not a Christian. He's not a Christian. He's not a Christian. I'm a Christian and I'm offended that you would lock us together.
Let this guy go.
We've been reduced to this by the passion that we feel for so many things. I mean, this country is falling apart. We have so much going on against each other.
Is this what our country has become?
You know what makes us America is that you have your way of thinking, I have mine, and we can sit here across from each other and not kill each other. Just because Donald Trump is the president or the rep of the Republican doesn't mean he represents every single thing I stand for. So I guess we're deplorables, right?
No!
And more, it feels like a group therapy session where we're just trying to.
The Constitution does not guarantee equal result for all. It wouldn't be America if it did. And when we have reverse discrimination trying to achieve that, it creates more diversion than actually looking at what the 14th Amendment says, and that's equal protection for all.
In a way, they're trying to get rid of our speech by calling it hate speech and shutting us up. They are working on mending the Second Amendment. That's our right to defend ourselves. And just the Constitution itself is just a miracle and nothing like it in the world.
What does it say about our country when you don't talk to your own brother, when you've lost friends? In the survey that we did, 1 out of 4 Americans actually said that they stopped talking to someone.
I stopped talking to somebody because I felt they just went off the deep end after Trump got elected, where everything that any Republican or conservative person did was inherently evil, and they just it was just horrible. So I didn't want to really be around her because she would immediately demonize anything that I believed in.
Mine's kind of the opposite. I have somebody who stopped talking to me because they kept going, I just don't understand why you don't understand. And I said, I don't have to understand because it's what I believe and it's what you believe, and they cut me out. They stopped talking to me.
Delivering educational excellence to all our students so they are prepared for the new economy. 0 of you chose that as one of your top 4. Half of them chose it. What do they know that you don't?
It's not true.
It's actually a real thing.
People who start their own businesses don't need an MBA. Actually, you're probably wasting your money on an MBA if you want to start your own business. Just start your own business.
You don't need it.
You are blowing money on college when you don't need to.
Because my kids went to private schools and they got an excellent education.
Everybody going to private school in this corner, right?
But I also agree that you can get a really good education in the public school. You can't just say, I'm not going. You have the ability to get a good education in the public school.
No, because public school, depending where they are, is the kind of teachers they can afford. Therefore, if I live in South LA, I cannot have my children understand and read and write by the time they get to high school. Because those teachers are paid below poverty level and they're unable to move. So the only place to really get an education, it is private education.
And I think if you apply yourself, you can navigate whatever. And it starts with the individual and the guidance from the parents.
If you're not supporting education and giving our teachers what they need, how are they going to be successful in teaching any of us anything?
Yes, of course.
Then why didn't you pick education? Listen to what they're telling you.
Well, my daughter went to school in Redondo Beach. We have fairly good schools there. It's not great, but they're fairly
What about
good.
them?
Well,
Can I tell you something? I'm not supposed to do this. You all sound pretty selfish. That you are okay with your own kids, so you don't care about them.
It's our perspective. We're not being selfish. It's our perspective.
Delivering educational excellence, you didn't choose it. This has nothing to do with how the schools are. The question is, do we need to teach our kids? And you're telling me no. Who chose our democracy as one of your top 4? 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm going to stop there. You're marching to get rid of guns that will affect nobody in this room, and you're not marching for education that will affect every single person in this room. So what's the root cause of this? What's going on right now? What's the root cause of this?
Political climate. The political climate is the cause. Political climate and racial tension.
I think people are selfish nowadays. We're one-track minded. We think about ourselves first, and we don't listen to each other.
We're not looking at the facts as they occur. We're more sensitive to opinions and
how we might be offended by something.
Trump is a product of it. Trump got elected because this existed before Trump came along.
So it's all about that socialism, and that's what we're fighting. We have a lot of people today. I'm a conservative, and I want our republic, our representative republic, to stand. I don't want socialism.
I told Dave that's exactly what we don't need, the way his attitude was to
The
rebut.
people who voted for a guy who makes fun of disabled people are calling me rude.
No.
I'm sorry. We got one guy screaming his brain off.
It's just common decency.
It's about respecting each other's opinion.
I've seen some animalistic behavior, yeah. Juvenile, I should say.
Do you want to take back the word animals?
I'll say juvenile.
Probably because
Why?
that's what 45 just called those
Calvin.
people. They're not human, they're
No, he
animals.
called MS-13 animals, not all immigrants. He called MS-13
That's the problem. That's the problem. They're Homo sapien just like you.
But they're animals.
They're Homo sapien just like
Okay.
you. God created them Homo sapien.
How many of you think our political, hold on, how many of you think our political institutions are corrupt? Raise your hands. Okay, so we got another thing where we got consensus. That's twice in an hour.
Can I come up with what I hope is the third one? I'm putting myself out there. The media.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Show of hands.
Yeah.
Not
Definitely.
corrupt or not quite
Definitely.
honest.
If you really mean that.
All outlets.
Respecting and protecting our elderly. 0 over here. And 0 over here. You are all going to hell. But the good news is your parents are going before you, so they'll be able to tell you what it's like. A word or phrase to describe Congress.
Not get along.
Selfish.
Corrupt.
Incompetent and disconnected.
Looking out for themselves.
Corrupt.
Incompetent.
Corrupt.
Highly inept. Slimy.
Disgusting.
Incompetent. Catastrophic.
Selfish.
Self-serving.
Greedy.
Irresponsible.
Influenced.
Term limits.
Confusion.
What was
You screwed it up.
sorry.
And I want you to give me the word or phrase that comes to mind immediately. Don't think about it. What comes to mind immediately? Politician.
Dishonest.
Well-meaning.
Two-faced.
Peer pressure.
Diabolical.
Self-righteous.
White.
Traitor. Corrupt.
Bought.
Traitor? Traitor.
Yeah.
They're just like you.
They're
Almost all
not
of
for
you.
the people like they say they are.
They have good intentions, and then once they start to realize that they can get their pockets lined, that's when, okay, the lobbyists, the big pharma start to come in, and that's when you start to see this kratom ban come in.
The only problem is that's the reason most of them took the job.
Yes.
That's the reason they didn't get elected to serve the people.
They ran to make money?
Oh, yeah.
You think they're all corrupt?
Not all, but the majority of them are greedy and self-serving, yes. I don't think they're out for the people, but for themselves.
Are the politicians out for you or for them? Why them?
It's how I've always felt. I don't know. I mean, it just seems obvious. They're the ones, I mean, they look out to fatten their pockets for, destroying America just to put pipelines, it's all about greed, money.
Destroying America.
Mhm.
It's a very strong word.
Environment.
And you blame the politicians for destroying the environment.
Mhm.
The system is rigged is an attack on the political system in this country, which arguably is part of what makes America America.
And I do believe that it was Bobby Kennedy who said politics is an honorable profession. And I think that he meant it. I think that there are still thousands running for office in this country who believe that. And I just think it's too easy. We like to blame others for.
Yeah, I would say it's rigged because that's the reason why he hired them is because they made major donations.
Because a great majority of our politicians are owned by businesses who give them money.
Yep.
And they'll make you promises, but these people are giving more money than you. And
Yep.
when it comes down to the votes, they have to go with the people who are paying them.
This is called instant response because it collects your responses on a second-by-second basis. So everyone, the mean score is 50. That's average. The more that you agree with and believe what's being said, the higher you go. The more you disagree and disbelieve it, the lower you go. If you totally agree with it and believe it, you're at 100. If you totally disagree and disbelieve it, you're at 0. And 50 is neutral.
You have hard right and hard left. And those who are on the hard right and the hard left, you can't reason with them.
This is not the outlook of my opponent. And he is my opponent, not my enemy.
Why is it that it is so hard for you to have a civil conversation about these issues, but you actually react well to elected officials who talk about the things that they are for rather than what they are against? There is much more commonality in your reaction to them than there is in your reaction to each other.
I think the fact that we see that you guys are lazy and basically they're entitled, that you want and whine about everything. It's like, you know, the weather comes and it's like, oh my God.
So for example, look what happened when Trump won. What happened? What happened in college? What happened to all the students? They canceled class for how long? Look what they did. They were like completely out of their minds, sobbing. You saw it on TV all over the place. Sobbing, crying, screaming, he's not my president, going and doing all stuff. It is your president because you live in this country.
I do agree with what you said about it does start with the parents, and then it does trickle to school, but you also got to factor in that not a lot of parents have a lot of time for their kids because of how the system is, and they're working these impoverished jobs, and it's also the system is against them. So how do they don't have the luxury for you guys, they don't have the luxury that a lot of you people have living in Redondo Beach.
You were the first one who spoke. I gave it to you. And you're the first one who used the R word.
You asked me if I thought that there was racism involved, and I said yes, I thought so.
Oh, answer the frickin' question.
Same thing, better words, worse words, it's the same internal emotion.
You're blaming the media. You're blaming the politicians. This is what I'm hearing from half of you.
Did you vote for Hillary Clinton?
Yes, because I'm not going to vote for Trump.
So we voted for Trump because I wasn't going to vote for Hillary Clinton.
Okay, so you voted for...
I mean, he wasn't my first choice. That's a good question
Then
to
don't
ask.
vote for him.
A lot of people voted one way because they didn't like the other candidate. That is literally the worst reason you could vote for someone ever, is just because you don't like the other person. There is the lesser of two evils.
Tribalism. It's tribalism at its greatest because you have people who say, oh, this is my team, I'm going to vote Republican or I'm going to vote Democrat. It's tribalism. That's all it is. It's they want their team to win and they blindly follow.
They divide us to conquer us.
You really believe that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. 100%.
They're the only ones
yes.
winning. They're
Right.
the only ones winning.
I don't have anything against Mexicans. What
You
is
live in East Orlando.
He talked about limiting certain countries based on their ideologies.
Why is it fair for somebody to cross the border and my wife had to wait over 2 years to get her permanent resident card and she came here legally? How is that fair?
Okay.
Honestly, I think Trump could walk on water, and there are Democrats that would still say he's a horrible human.
That is good.
Okay. We are, I want to do a couple more dials. Everyone grab your dials, please. We're going to try guns. God help us.
I was talking to a friend of mine this morning. He's a big gun collector. I said, if all of a sudden you couldn't buy an AR-15, what would you lose? Would you feel as though your Second Amendment rights would be eroded because you couldn't buy a god-darn AR-15? These are the things that have to be looked at, and action has to happen before. And look, you're never going to fix all of this, but common sense gun laws make sense.
Maxine Waters, a very low IQ individual.
React.
Ever see her? You ever seen her? Have you ever seen her? We will impeach him. We will impeach the president. But he hasn't done anything wrong. It doesn't matter. We will impeach him.
I have a real reaction to particularly Ashley Judd. And the reason being is that I really have a problem with a celebrity who's been around for a long time, and now all of a sudden she feels very capable of coming out with a megaphone with I bleed.
Because if it happened to them, call the cops. And they wait 15, 20, 30 years to do it.
Because they're afraid for their careers.
They made that conscious choice.
As a woman who's been sexually assaulted 3 times, I resent that.
I resent that.
Correct.
I did not
Me too.
choose that.
Right.
I did not.
But the ramifications of potentially calling the cops from the assault or the actual person assaulting is so traumatizing that to call the cops, you're now in fear potentially for your life.
And we allow the
To try
next
to call
person
cops.
to be victimized and the next one.
And so they can stop it.
That's right.
I had to leave school because I was abused and I almost got my ass kicked every single day. You know what I did? I just shut up and moved on.
You have to have self-confidence. You have to come from a good home. You have to have the ability to say no.
What about being date raped?
How about when I'm laying there and he's holding me down and I'm saying no?
Why are you laying?
Why is that mine? Why is it against me? I completely disagree with her. I'm not into blaming the victim, and I'm sorry.
No, I'm not blaming. I'm not blaming.
Yeah, no. That
You should have called.
Well, what are you
No.
doing?
You can't-
If you're saying you're not blaming the victim, what I don't understand. Could you help me understand? What
Yeah, I don't agree with her at all.
blaming the
Yes,
victim?
you are.
No, I'm saying that you grow up to be a strong person. You call the police. You don't get yourself in that situation 3 times.
I grew up in the generation that started the movement to empower you. Why are you victims? We failed you. You're not supposed to be victims.
Do they listen?
They tend not to. If I was to look at these 4 people I work with, I have this wisdom to give them, and it goes in here and out the other.
An example of excuses. There's all these excuses. We never made excuses when we were growing up. We figured out a way to make it work. We figured out a way to do it.
Some of these aren't excuses, and I feel like you guys I'm sorry, I know people who like that word excuses when I tell them something. It's not an excuse, it's my fact. It's what I can tell you from my perspective. That's my fact. It's not an excuse, it's what I know and what I can come across.
I personally have a problem with that because I think the first comment should be what you yourself can do instead of looking out to others in a village, quote unquote, to do for yourself and what have you.
Everyone grab your dials, go to 50, please. The problem with Republicans is that they don't help because they don't care. Keep your dials. They don't understand working people. They don't understand the poor. They don't understand the suffering. The problem with Democrats is that they never saw a tax they didn't want to raise, that they don't respect middle-class, hardworking taxpayers, that they just keep putting taxes up.
And when you say Black Lives Matter, that's inherently racist. That's anti-American and it's racist. Of course Black Lives matter, and they matter greatly. But when you focus in on 1% of less than 1% of the murder that's going on in America, and you create a disproportion. The police understand it, and it puts a target on their back. Every cop in America will tell you that if you ask them.
Because when an African American male is killed by another African American male, and they know who killed that African American male, there are consequences. The issue is when an African American male is killed by a cop on camera, on video, on phone, and there is zero consequences. Right. He's acquitted. That's the difference.
A very small percentage is very appropriate. My grandfather, my father, and one of my sons are law enforcement, have been, or were, or are cops. And my son is the only one remaining, but it's a constant thing. They have to be on guard at all times. I certainly understand the fear, but it is such an overblown
Says the white guy. No offense.
You know what I mean? That is offensive to me. That's the first time I've been offended tonight.
Okay, but a disproportionate amount of minorities for the same crimes compared to white and Caucasian counterparts are being convicted, are being sentenced, are being even prosecuted in comparison. So the fear that a minority would have even being approached, they're on another higher level than most.
I'm going to fight for my cause every day as your president. I'm going to fight to make sure every American has every reason to thank God as I thank him, that I'm an American.
To my surprise, John McCain did better among the Democrats than he did among the Republicans. He's a war hero. What is it that make the Democrats all forget that he's a Republican?
Everything he said.
And what is it about you Republicans that you're so offended?
Everything he did.
It's rare that I have something so perfect.
It's
So
the
keep going.
truth. You know, it's what he did that makes us not hear what he's saying. Okay?
He speaks perfectly,
But he never backs it up.
He spent years in a prison camp, and these people are upset.
Respect his military service. My whole entire family is military. My children are active military right now. Would never put a military person down under any circumstances. But he does not do what he's exactly.
We're trying to educate young people about this entitlement crisis that is going to hit the millennial generation, or trying to pay for the promises of yesterday. We're not even funding future programs, education, so on and so forth. The money that my generation is paying in taxes, I think it's completely unfair and it's immoral. So look, what we have right here is we're literally taking money away from young people to try and attempt to fund an unsustainable and insolvent system. You know, as a young person myself, I see every single week on my paycheck Social Security being deducted and deducted and deducted, and quite frankly, I don't know if I'm ever going to see that money.
Because it's not about me, it's about how we as a society work, and the reality is the solution is not for young people to be able to opt out. The solution is to make one or two really small fixes that would leave Social Security more solvent.
Why should we labor to pay taxes for a system that is legally a Ponzi scheme, right? If I tried to run my own Social Security, the feds would take me away. And yet Roosevelt gets to do it. It's his third worst idea.
And a Ponzi scheme is the new people pay for the older people. I mean, that's the classic definition. But I agree, opting out, I think, is a scary thing, because what happens to the people who lose their money? Then they have nothing?
So you're telling me that the 40-year contract that I signed up for, you're now going to just say, poof, it's gone. Sorry, you're making too much money. You've been too responsible. You can't get Social Security.
You want us to pay, and it's not going to be there for us. You want us to pay you right now, and you know there's no contract. We're not going to get paid when we retire.
But there are a lot of seniors who depend on that small Social Security check every single month, and it's vital to them. It's vital to them, and I have a hard time seeing people who are living on the water with boats, and I'm a capitalist and a Republican. But I have a hard time seeing people who are so dependent on a small check, and other people are laughing their way to the bank with pensions and thousands coming in from Social Security.
You mentioned earlier that you're going to penalize people who are wealthier. The problem is the wealthier aren't paying the right amount right now because there's a cap on taxable income, and that's one of the reasons that Social Security is struggling.
No. You want to penalize people for doing well, and you want to take their money? If you're self-employed, you're paying both the employer and the employee portion. So you want them to pay more than 18% of all their earnings on top of income tax, on top of state tax?
No. Listen, I want them to pay the payroll tax evenly across all income and not have there be a cap. I don't think that's an unreasonable request, considering there's such massive income inequality.
Those people who build business, work hard, they should be penalized because somebody doesn't.
A lot of people in impoverished neighborhoods don't have the same luxury as many people to establish their businesses.
I don't actually think the unemployment rate is going down. I think a lot of people have stopped looking for work.
I couldn't afford an apartment. We shared rooms. We had 4 guys in one apartment. We didn't expect to have our own apartment by ourselves with an entry-level job. Never.
Have you ever heard You ever heard of the phrase boomerang kids? That's what's going on right now. They're boomeranging. They're coming back.
Let's look for the things that unite us and not the stuff that is separating us. I think that's where we can start finding some common ground. Once we get there, then we can sit down and say, okay, now that I know that we're not totally against each other, now we can have a conversation about what we don't agree on. And that's how we learn how to be respectful.
Okay, well, this is about Trump. Trump, to me, he embodies totally nothing. And I know he said he's conventional, he speaks his mind. When you are, in my opinion, the President of the United States has to stick to convention, because it's not about what he wants or what he thinks. I think he was a terrible businessman.
Trump didn't file bankruptcy. His companies did.
I didn't say he did.
Okay,
I'm talking about the people who he didn't pay, and his companies filed bankruptcy not to pay those people.
Here is my problem with Trump. I don't care what he did as a business person or anything like that. He could have filed bankruptcy 1,000,000 times. Don't care. He is a despicable human being.
Amen.
And you are the President of the United States. As the President of the United States, you should be the best of all of us.
Yes.
I don't think the people in this room are fit to tie the president's shoes. He's so successful. He has followed through on almost everything that he ran on. Everything that he ran on, but Barack Obama seemed to be anti-American, going and doing everything he could for every Muslim. I am speaking I did not ever interrupt you.
Yes, you did, but go ahead.
I care about Americans, not necessarily everybody else around the world. And America comes first, and I feel that Trump is trying to make America great. That was his slogan. And we have the lowest unemployment rate in 18 years. That should be a huge thing for everybody here. People are getting raises, bonuses, jobs are opening up everywhere.
Me, I just got one yesterday. Don't say
Hold on. Do you credit Donald? Stop. Do you
Absolutely.
1 second. Do you credit Donald Trump for your job?
Absolutely. The tax cuts made the company I work for, my boss has more money now to give to us. He gave all of us, there's only 13 of us, or 14. He gave all of us raises because he has more money now.
He's toned it down. He's toned it down.
Life is
become
going on,
more presidential.
exactly.
I think he's got
I just want to
more
speak
class.
For you,
That's true.
All right.
you probably do.
I'm just speaking to what he said about.
She just said to you?
I didn't hear it.
It's because
you're
you're
not the
white.
right color.
I grew up with all black girls, and that's not even.
But you're not
All right,
black.
let's let this guy in the suit though. He hasn't talked all day.
I asked him, did he feel safe now, the way the situation is? He felt safe when Trump got in. He said, yes, I feel safer. I said, I don't. I said, and because you don't have this type of color, I don't think people spend, a lot of them don't.
Do you feel safe?
I feel absolutely safe. I think Trump's doing an excellent job with our law enforcement and our military.
I don't feel safe. What policies has he implemented?
I mean, there's no policies yet, but he just shows them he appreciates them.
The symptoms of this crisis of the American spirit are all around us. For the first time in the history of our country, a majority of our people believe that the next 5 years will be worse than the past 5 years. 2/3 of our people do not even vote. The productivity of American workers is actually dropping. And the willingness of Americans to save for the future has fallen below that of all other people in the Western world. As you know, there is a growing disrespect for government.
Now, here's the thing. That speech, when it was given, was so severely criticized. And people believe that that cost Jimmy Carter his re-election. And yet almost everyone in this room loves it. Everyone grab your dials. Go to 50, please.
Instant gratification. You want to go on a date? You don't even have to learn how to be like, hey. You don't even have to learn and practice that skill. You don't have to be the uncomfortable one who says yes when you mean no and says no when you mean no, but yes when you... You don't have to swipe right. Bang, I'm a stud.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to learn the social coping mechanisms, right? Everything you want, you can have instantaneously. Everything you want, instant gratification. Except job satisfaction and strength of relationships. There ain't no app for that.
Raise your hands if you think social media contributes to a positive discourse in this country. 0 from boomers and more than half from millennials.
So why can't you just sit down and have a conversation like we are instead of staring at that thing and constantly unfollowing everybody? Nothing gets accomplished.
Everyone talks about how Facebook stops the interaction in person. For me, it did the opposite. I live in a super conservative town when I'm obviously super lefty. And during the Bernie Sanders campaign, there weren't a lot of Bernie people in Simi. I was able to connect with a lot of them. I've met them in real life because of those Facebook connections, and I'm an elected delegate to the state Democratic Party because of Facebook.
Will we ever have an end to polarization? Will we ever have? You're all shaking. I didn't even finish the question. You're shaking. No.
That's inequality.
We didn't wait for the question to even be finished before we were like, nope, absolutely not. That's why we'll never have an end to polarization, because nobody wants to listen.
We were told we were equal by slave owners. Think about that for a minute. In the Constitution was written by slave owners, am I correct?
Yes,
and
but
he
I
said
have
that
no
every
idea what
man
that
was
means.
created equal.
Why can we not end the polarization?
Politicians and the media feed on it. That's where the media makes their money. It's the division. They create the division.
These people were given everything. Everything was handed to them. And they took it all. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and they stayed loaded for 20 years and had a free ride. But now they're staring down the barrel of middle-age burnout, and they don't like it. They don't like it, so they've turned self-righteous. And they want to make things hard on younger people.
Do you want to apologize to them?
No, because I didn't raise them.
Does anyone over here want to apologize to this generation for what you did to them?
Some some baby boomers that I know of, they don't find passions to be career worthy. We do.
So you're smart, you know, and you can spot this. My question is, are we destined to year after year of declining civility, declining decency, and that it is, if one person does it, it's okay for the next person to do it. If Trump says something bad, then it's okay to do the same thing.
Yeah, that's what you're doing. A great thing here tonight, Frank. Brownie points, but bring us together that we can actually talk. And I think it's important to find what we can agree on, and it starts with the politicians who all spout what we don't agree on 24/7.
I think it's like a feedback loop. We kind of, they divide us, we divide them, and it just keeps on going. It starts with the politicians.
The politicians, in a larger way, I blame them first because it's become a contact sport. It's a total win-loss game between the two parties. And it's not about, at the end of the day, helping the people, and I'm not a big altruist. It's about winning.
Being able to communicate to each other with respect, to respect the other's opinion, to be able to debate a subject without getting personal. It's not civics, it's civility.
By the way, just for the record, no one should say the next generation is dumb, because that's... I'm actually having to concentrate so carefully on what you say. How old are you?
25.
Are you all surprised by what they said about you?
No.
No? You expected it? Yeah. And the reason why this happened is because I'm going to introduce you to Andrew Shue. Come on up. And a few of you will recognize him from his previous life. But right now, his effort is to find a way to unify. But I will let him explain it to you.
So I just want to say huge, huge thank you for being here. And for opening yourselves up, for being honest, and doing something that I think is crucially important. The facts are all over the place. But the fact is, we can actually get the real facts. There was a Bernie revolt, and there was a Trump revolt. And a lot of it was coming from folks like all of you. For 40 years, the bottom 90% of America, almost 300 million people, have only seen their incomes rise by 15%. So in Ohio, in 40 years, it went from 26,000 to 30,000. Now, we were saying before, like maybe money's not everything. But when you feel like you're working your butt off, and you're working 2 jobs and 3 jobs, and you're trying to get ahead for your kids, and you feel like you don't have the education or you're not prepared to be able to get to that next level, you're going to be really frustrated.
I would argue that it's education which is limiting your hopes and limiting your capabilities, that our schools are not functioning as well as they could, and that's part of the problem.
Every single major category, if you take the top 25 industrialized nations, we finished not 5th or 10th or 15th or 20th, last.
We used to be the greatest country on earth, right? We used to be the beacon on the hill.
While we were fighting, we've just been going like this.
We live in the greatest country in the world, and we have so much opportunity here. And I think we're squandering it by polarizing ourselves over politics.
We're talking about the greatest nation in the world, the nation that the whole world depends on.
I think we can do better. I think that, with the right attitudes and the right environment that we set, for positive political discourse in this country, I feel like, things could change.
I feel like it has to start somewhere. And as a group, kind of agreed, it's not just everybody in Washington. Like, it has to start with us.
Yes. But now the question is, what are we going to do? There's only one answer. It's to get on the same page with a mission to create a revolt together.
We are certainly capable of being better than this. We can certainly do better than this. Let's join forces and figure out how to fix it.
We can do this. We have to do this. Can you imagine another 20 years where we'll be?
I want to be a part of it. I want to be everybody else's Muslim friend. I wish I can, to explain to them kind of where we stand, and we're a lot more moderate than a lot of people think.
And I want to ask all of you, and this is a big, big deal. We're only going to have maybe 200 of you that we will have talked to and gone through this intense process with. I'm asking you, for yourselves, for our country, will you take part in a coming together, so there's just an us, with our plan, the people's agenda, the people's ideology, a governing philosophy that we can take to the politicians. Who's in? Who's in? That's awesome.
And so I can't imagine, as we get to know each other and as we begin to tackle those issues with each other, I can't imagine where this is going to lead, and I'm very excited to be a part of it.
We are one people, all of us pledging allegiance to the Stars and Stripes, all of us defending the United States of America.
One people, under God, dedicated to the dream of freedom that He has placed in the human heart, called upon now to pass that dream on to a waiting and a hopeful world.
We are leaving nobody behind.